All right, Buck, I was listening to your live, and the guy with the Roots supercharger, there are a lot of different things that can make that engine not run correctly. All right, so like a carburetor, you need to boost reference something, okay, so the engine knows. So you need a boost reference fuel pressure regulator. All right, that's a given. Injector size only comes into play at low boost pressures and even getting near atmosphere, zero. Let's just say zero. Okay, when that negative pressure becomes close to atmospheric pressure, then injector size becomes an issue because now you're dealing with the pulse width, and anything more than I like 75 to 80 as a maximum open time. Anything higher than that, I don't like it because the injector essentially isn't closing and it's just constantly spraying, but that can cause issues at idle, mid-throttle, and definitely under boost. You do need a size bigger injector if you're running, for instance, let's just take a stock 19-pound injector, okay? 19-pound injector will supply 350 horse, maybe, I think. Depends on stroke bore, stuff like that. So you could get to 300 horsepower, whether it's at mid-throttle or low boost or near atmospheric. But after that, the pulse width begins to not be ideal. So it's probably going to be getting to 80% duty cycle, 90%. And at that point, it's not good atomization. It's not good for the injector. It isn't doing its job. So with that being said, you need to step it up a little bit. But if you're making said under 300 horsepower with 19-pound injectors, you're probably good at full throttle, regardless of boost, because horsepower is fuel related. The other thing, to take into consideration is spring pressure. Okay, valve spring pressure comes into play because now you're forcing air. Okay, so the seat pressure needs to rise. Why does a seat pressure need to rise? Well, let's do a little math here. Let me get over to the old. All right, here we go. So the valve is round, okay? So we have to use pi. Now that's not to be confused with disambiguate tau, which is actually 2 pi, or Paul, which is actually in between pi and tau. A little off subject, but let's use pi, okay, because it's a round circular valve. By the way, tau is the 19th letter of the Greek alphabet, and it has a value of 300, but there's some not necessary information. Let's say you got a 1.94 valve, okay, and now this is concerning boost, okay? This is not negative pressure, okay? So this is with boost. So you got 1.94 times 3.14. So you got 6.09. So there's 6.1 pounds of pressure on the valve trying to open it at 1 pound of boost. Now, usually a Roots blower, 302, depending on size and how much the engine can actually digest. Let's just do 8 psi, okay? Because that's, you know, that's basically what it's going to be doing, and that's most applications. So you hit the equals, and let's do times 8 psi. So now you got 50 pounds. You now have a valve that was 80 pounds on the seat, and now you're at 30 pounds of pressure on the valve seat, and that's why it won't run. So you can imagine when the valve is trying to close, even at idle, that it would bleed air. And if it's bleeding air, it's throwing off the map. If it's throwing off the map, it's throwing off the computer, it's throwing off injector timing. It's, well, depending on what kind of computer you have, because some computers can't adjust for ignition time, or not ignition timing, injector timing, okay? Injector timing becomes critical when you're using boost applications, and especially a Roots, because it's positive displacement, it's not really centrifugal, okay? Big difference there too, because the turbo is centrifugal, and that actually uses the volume and speed of air to create a pressure, as to where a Roots blower will just say, hey, you're getting this, or I'm going to float your head, or, you know, push off the top of the engine. So there's a little difference there. Or it'll just snap the front end of your crank clean off. But anyways, so when you're dealing with a Roots type blower and not a turbo, because remember, there's a big difference. And yes, valve seat pressure plays an effect, but not as harsh as a positive displacement pump. So if you have stock seat pressure, and let's just say you got 100 psi seat pressure, well, now at 8 psi, you only got 50 psi on that seat, and the valve will bounce on the seat. So I hope that helps.